This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show.
You're listening to the Wise Guy Radio Show.
This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Mountain Glass Arts. For the month of October 2018, Mountain Glass is offering their Boro sale, 40% off Chinese rod and tube. There's no coupon code needed. And for all you beautiful soft glass nerds, they have their 35% off Effetre sale. All you have to do is put in the coupon code Effetre, that's E-F-F-T-R-E at checkout. And for any other questions, comments, or concerns, go to mountainglass.com. That's mountainglass.com. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 202. This is your host, Jason Michael, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's episode features Chris Piazza, a.k.a. Crispy Glass. You can find him on Instagram, and I will have him in the show notes as well for you. Chris is making his third visit back on the show, and you can find his first episode on 118, and then after that he was on 158, and 118 really was his journey and where he came from and his introduction to glass, and basically where he got to a point 3 years ago almost now. And then after that we interviewed after his first experience at Glass Roots trade show, and the process of growing a business and some of the aches and pains you go through. We had a huge discussion on that episode, so definitely check those two out for a little background on Chris. And this episode is piggybacking on my new series I'm doing called the Wise Guy Radio Minute, where I'm basically asking questions for you to think about. And then that week's episode, the goal is with the artists I bring on the show, or whoever it is, topical-wise, to basically start to cover and answer the questions that we do talk about on that episode. This episode here, Chris and I get into catching up where he's been the last 2 years, some of the more aches and pains and stuff he's been through. I took a quick break from glass, which you'll hear him talk about. Not completely from glass 100%, but did take a break from the business side of things, and then returned. And it's very interesting, the conversation and hearing him going through what he went through, which is very reminiscent to a lot of the ups and downs and trials and tribulations that I went through myself early on in probably the first decade of doing this. When you want to do your own thing and then you grow and you can't keep up with the demand and you want to then grow the business, so you bring artists on board and then you teach these artists who then quit after like a month because they're the best glass blower on earth and want to go do their own thing because all they're thinking about is the numbers or just the dollar signs, really. And then it's, when you teach somebody, that takes not only a lot of time, but a lot of material and cost. It's expensive. And so something to think about, for future endeavors in your studio if you want to grow. So we get a lot of talk about that. Chris shares a couple huge value bombs towards the end of the interview that you definitely want to take notes on. And if anything, write down in big black marker somewhere visible for you to see so you don't forget to take action on these particular areas that he talks about. It's pretty badass stuff, so I definitely hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the Wise Guy Radio Minute. This going to be a continuous new series I'm going to be doing every week, so I'm back on the track of doing 2 episodes a week. One episode will be the Wise Guy Radio Minute, which will come out early in the week, and then the interview will come out on towards the end. The goal is a Monday, Friday, or a Wednesday, Friday, piggybacking, depending on my schedule and getting these interviews lined up. So there we are, back on track. Still moving forward and growing the show and fulfilling the dreams in a sense that I've had since day one of this concept for the show and where I want to take it. So definitely check that out. But again, you can find Chris on Instagram. He's at Crispy Glass. It's Chris with a K, K-R-I-S-P-Y Glass. Again, his link there will be in the show notes for you, as well as his past episodes too. And it reminded me towards the end of the episode, he had mentioned how he finally found the show on Stitcher. Didn't realize I was on Stitcher for all you Android users. So if you have an Android, you can download the app Stitcher to listen to the show. If you have an iPhone, obviously you can use the iTunes app. And then also I'm on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play. You can also download the show from the website at wiseguymedia.com/podcast. And just wanted to make sure I'm clear on those. So if you're wanting to look for the show in a convenient manner of listening to it, those are some of the areas you can find the show at for sure. I mentioned in previous episodes about our Patreon group, our wise asses we have. Going to be uploading the first 100 episodes onto Patreon. Unfortunately, with the way that the iTunes algorithms works and their hosting aspect of things, they only actually will allow 100 episodes at a time. So if I want to have all these episodes up, it would definitely, I would have to have two separate shows, or RSS feeds as they call them in the podcasting terms and worlds of stuff. So instead, I'm going to be putting them on, because of all the content, for free on the Patreon page. So again, no matter what level of a wise ass you are on there, you'll have access to all the first 100 episodes. And there's a lot of really good stuff in there, a lot of early on talks with some incredible guests, and then some solo shows I was doing, talking business and health and all kind of other fun stuff, and sharing some other insights to my life. You'll also, if you go back that far, the 3.5 to 4 years of doing this show has been a roller coaster ride in my life, so you're going to definitely hear a lot of that in there. And to me, it's all good, topical information. I am transparent, and I share what I share because my goal is to hopefully inspire, help whoever through my experiences in life to help either you get through the similar experiences or to even just avoid them at all costs, if possible. So, which I'm sure you'll understand. And so anything else, just let me know. Give me a shout on my emails is wiseguymedia@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram at jmichaelglass. That's JMICHAEL Glass. And you can find this podcast as well on Instagram at wiseguy_radio. I have my other Instagram pages. I got like 5 of them. My daughter and I still have our... we still have our Inspired on Maine Instagram. If you guys are interested in seeing what we're doing there together as a dad and daughter, having some fun, collaborating on some ideas and designs, t-shirt inspired stuff, you can find us on Inspired on Maine. You can also go to inspiredonmaine.com and look for some designs, some shirts you may want to get. I'm also going to be uploading. She's actually helping me do that. Some new shirts and merchandise for this podcast, just to something you can wear out there to share the show, but also to show the world that you're a glassblower, or even something that you can buy for your girlfriend or boyfriend or significant other, whoever they might be, that can share there and show off their love for their mate who is a glassblower. So I got a couple fun designs we're coming up with right now. And other than that, all those proceeds to any sales that are done through the show, everything is turned around and goes right back into this podcast, whether it's buying new equipment, helping support myself so I can travel a little bit to other areas, studios, and events that go on in the community so I can share those with you. And keep helping cover some time that I've put in and expenses that come out of pocket to pay for everything. And I do appreciate our sponsors, the Flow Magazine, as well as Mountain Glass. Definitely go check them out if you have not yet. Subscribe to Mountain Glass's email. You'll get constant updates on all their sales and what's going on there. It's definitely, they got a lot of cool stuff going on there for sure. And their Instagrams and everything else in the process. Excuse me, I just did back-to-back interviews and haven't had a chance to run around and get all this leftover CO2 out of my lungs, so my body is now yawning. So pardon the yawns. I'm not bored or tired. I just need to go to take a couple jumping jacks in the backyard and get some breathing going. So I'm going to go do that real quick and let you go. So enjoy, and we will see you next time on the Wise Guy Radio Show. Enjoy. Talk to you soon. Peace. What's going on, Chris? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, dude. How's it going?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Just got our first quote-unquote cold front through here the other day, so my house is completely open, and it's already like 90 degrees outside, so I'm going to be closing the house back up after we're done talking.
Nice.
So,
And cold front there, so what, it's like 80 or something?
yeah, it got some areas got down to like low 60s, like northern Florida.
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
Nice. We had ice for the first time overnight last night.
crazy.
So, yep.
That's funny. I was listening
Good
to
time.
this podcast called Coffee with Kenobi, and it's a Star Wars chat, podcast, and the guy's up in the Northeast, so he's the same way. His outro was like, "Make sure you all stay warm this weekend." I'm like,
Nice.
"Yeah, I'm staying warm, dude, for sure."
Oh, well, this is the best time of the season for us up here because we've just, I don't know, it's just nice to be able to actually cool off a little bit. I mean, I don't know how you guys do it down south. I mean, anything under south of Tennessee, I just couldn't blow glass. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't either,
That'd be
dude.
fair.
But then at the same time, I look at you, all you cats up in the Northeast, Northwest, North, just in general. How you deal with it in the wintertime. And like I've been in my studio when it was in the 30s, and I'm like, fuck, this sucks.
See, I don't mind it. It's 0 degrees. It's like I can put more layers on is kind of what I always say. It's like I can always warm myself up. Yeah.
I think with the
That's,
trick from what I've been talking to the other artists too that are in your same situation is having a heated floor mat is like key because I layer it up, but like my feet, no matter how many pairs of socks I was wearing, my toes were freezing. So
Yep, heated floor mat, and then if you ever heard of a Mr. Heater, when I switched to that, I just stopped caring what the temperature was during the winter. It's like a little infrared heater that goes on the propane. You just put that behind you, and super efficient. I can get like 2 or 3 days, depending on how long a day's out of each propane tank, and I'm nice and cozy the whole time.
No
Getting
shit.
heat from the back and heat from the front with the torch. So yeah, I'm golden.
Mr. Heater, it's called.
Yep, Mr. Heaters. Yep.
Hell yeah, I have to look that up.
Yep, it's perfect. So if anybody's out there and trying to figure out the heat thing, that's the way to go. I tried doing like a jet heater to like heat everybody in the shop when I had more guys in it, but the ventilation just sucks all that out. So yeah, Mr. Heater is the way to go.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thought. Even like having like an air conditioning system in the studio, it's like my ventilation is just gonna suck the shit out of here. But having like that kind of infrared thing, that's pretty cool technology.
Right. Well, so I was actually thinking about that for my next shop with the AC thing, and my buddy who's in HVAC said that all you need to do is have 2 times the amount of cold air coming in as your ventilation is going to pull out, and then you're going to bottleneck the cold air.
That makes sense.
Yep. So
Hell yes. Something we do at work is we have a blower motor mount under the bench, and then just run like basically like the original designs they used was a fucking vacuum hose that used for a vacuum cleaner, and then like the wide attachment for a vacuum that you would use like a shop vac wise, like to suck up your dirt or whatever.
Right.
And as like the where your air comes out of, and that we just mounted those with a little bracket to the edge of the bench, and then if you have like a blast shield or whatever in front of you, the air just kind of blows right up at you and along that shield to kind of keep you
nice.
keep you cooled off and some fresh air in your face too, which is nice. And especially at work where we don't have any kind of like quote unquote ventilation, minus the HVAC systems in the shops, so it's interesting stuff.
Nice.
For sure.
Nice.
But yeah, man, so topic wise, so something new I'm doing, which we talked pre-show, is I'm doing this Wise Guy Radio Minute, and the goal really is to do a quick shot episode to kind of start generating some thoughts for artists out there, no matter how long you've been doing this for. And again, the show is dedicated and initially created for the new glassblower, but this can go for anybody and everybody because you can have successes for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden you're not, which is what's been going on right now in the industry, and it's just in this weird thing right now. And last time you and I talked was on 158, I believe, which was
Right.
a follow-up basically when you came back from your first time doing Glass Roots.
Right.
And before that, we had you on 118. And if you guys want to get Chris's background, definitely check out 118 because, in my opinion, bro, so you're a perfect example of, and not only how glass can like save your life in a sense, but like once you find this passion, how you can take it in a direction as long as you put the work into, and you seem to have done that to where you are now. And, we talked about in the past, you're able to buy a car and buy your house and have a studio and have glass blowers and expand and stuff. And that was where we were last time. You were kind of going through the heartaches and figuring out the process of getting all these orders in, and then how the fuck do we fulfill them without pissing our customers off and putting things in line and strategy, and it was really cool conversation, because it's a lot of stuff that, it can be overwhelming, especially if you have a huge product line, and you get 20 orders of 20 of each pipe, you're fucked for like 2 years. What am I going to do?
Right.
And then next thing you know, they don't want your order anymore. So it was good.
Right.
So if for those out there listening to this, if you're interested in wanting to understand this whole dynamic of being a good one, production studio, 158 is definitely a good one to listen to. But dude. Yeah. So here we are now, and this, this last episode I put out was all about the idea of, are you obsessed with being a glass blower? But not only just the glass, but the whole concept and aspect of the glass business too. But not being so obsessed that your personal life is affected too by it, And I think you seem to have, from the outside at least, somewhat of a balance that you're figuring out. If that's even a term to use anymore, that work-life balance bullshit,
Yeah, I mean, my balance is pretty skewed at this point, but yeah.
Yeah, so catch us up from where you were last time. So last time, really, it was, again, you were figuring out the aches and pains of, in a sense, of a new company with employees under you, and then already having somewhat of a good foundation for your business, but really now you're expanding it, and the industry went from high-end collector, resale, flipping glass, to now it's not really, it's kind of their collectors are collecting the glass and holding on to it for potential future value. So there's like this heady market, it's going through ebbs and flows. The production market's always there, but then you have this influx of imports and other things that competing with you. Not to mention all the fucking new glass blowers we've had in the last 5 years that have blown up in this, in the country, in the industry, as even more competition. So I guess since then, man. So what's kind of catch us up? What's been going on with you?
Well, I mean, to really hit that, the one thing on a side note, I guess, with the China glass stuff. I was talking to my dad about all that, and he's, definitely a businessman or whatnot. And, how he described it was, if I want to think of Chinese glass as competition, then I'm just hurting myself. Like, the customer that's going to buy China glass is not a customer buying American glass. And to not think of it as actual direct competition.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, so, it's kind of like, I don't know, just something to think about for anybody that's kind of worried about that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, it's been a hell of the last 2 years. Ended up, I think, I feel like every old timer in the industry has this experience. And I ended up having some issues with two of the guys in my shop. I had a shop up to 4, including me. 2 of the guys turned over and they're gone. It was right at that same time that I picked up a Red Star and thought that, well, I got these other 2 guys that are going to help funnel in a little bit of cash for the shop, and any extra cash that I had coming in from the shop was to buy tools for the shop, right? Like, I'm not trying to just, pocket a bunch of cash off of somebody else's, whatever. So ended up grabbing this Red Star right at the same time the 2 kids leave.
Just real quick, what's a Red Star? I'm not familiar.
Oh, sorry, Red Star lathe.
Oh, okay.
It's a lathe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
I remember you mentioned that last. That was like one of the last things we talked about. Okay, I remember that.
Right.
Now. Okay.
Yep. So right around then, like right after that, 2 kids bounced. So then it was just down to me and my my apprentice. That's been my tried and true. I feel like we all get one guy.
Yep.
That's kind of like our right hand man. And yeah. So since then, it's I've honestly kind of backed off of the idea of expanding inside of my shop for right now. Just took too much time. When I was trying to train these guys from starting from scratch, never even turning a torch on, it just, man, like it just took too much time. Like if I can't provide for my family as a result of trying to help somebody else come up, like that's going too far for me. I have to take care of my own.
Yeah.
And, so, kind of had a little bit of the growing pains there, and, so I kind of just refocused, honestly. And, well, I also kind of took a little halfway hiatus. What I really love about, what you're doing with the industry is you're talking about other things outside of just the art, right? Like there's the art and there's the business. There's two components to our industry. And a lot of people focus on the art, which is a beautiful thing. But, the business side for me, like that's kind of what I enjoy. Like I enjoy creating and I enjoy the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of went a little bit of a tangent outside of the industry for a little while. Started a cryptocurrency company and kind of got a little bit burned there. So I kind of got away from this a little bit. Ended up coming back. So at the whole time I was still blowing glass, but
Right.
ended up coming back to my torch 100% with a whole new level of productivity, which was really kind of incredible, which was pretty incredible to me. I've been on the torch for 9 coming up on 10 years, and for what it's worth, just real numbers wise, like my goals on a daily basis was to make like 200 bucks a day or so, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that comes out to 50K a year gross, and that was kind of what my goals were. I came back after taking this little bit of a jaunt out to trying to start some other businesses, and I have no idea what happened, but all of a sudden, like my first day back, like mentally, like 100%, like doing a bunch of kind of spiritual work and everything, and I came back to this, like I hit 200 bucks and it was only noon.
Amazing.
And I was like, right, like it was just out of nowhere. And so now I'm like, my goals are at least 300 to 350 a day. And I have this focus that I didn't have before. Like when my heart kind of left for a little while, it doesn't ever leave completely. I mean, that's just kind of like, once you're in this, you're stuck. Like there's no getting out.
Yeah, you're fucked.
And yeah, pretty much, like it doesn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of, I embraced it and I came back to it, and like shit's been crazy. Like, I don't know. So that's kind of where I'm at lately. I'm just, producing more than I ever have. And I'm actually having new growing pains. Up until now, I've never been able to hold inventory, but that was only because I was only making $200 worth of stuff a day.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've virtually doubled that, like now I'm having cash flow issues, which is it's painful, but it's a cool learning process. So that's kind of where I'm at now. We hit Glassroots again this year, and I guess we cut a bunch of lines. If anybody goes and listens to the other podcasts, pretty much I had so many lines, and I was getting like an order of 2 or 3 of every single one of my 50 something or 60 something lines, and I couldn't ever get into a production flow to be able to actually get up to speed. Like if I'm going to do one, just one inside out, then one frit, then one wrap and rake, then one fume spoon, like I'm never going to actually be able to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
Breaking down a tuba 44, and then I got to break down a tuba 32, and then a tuba 25, yada yada. So coming into Glassroots this year, we cut a bunch of lines. We got ourselves probably down to like 35, which is still a lot. But
Yeah.
what I also did,
Yeah, it is. Go on. I'm
what I
sorry.
also did though, oh my God.
Yeah, you're good. I was just commenting, and I shouldn't have
no.
commented.
No worries. But so what I also did was I changed my pricing. So I bumped up my pricing a little bit more on my single item pieces, and now I offer pricing that's based off of quantity per style, rather than what I used to do was if you order $1,000 from me, I'll give you 5% off. Now it's you order 100 of that piece and you're going to get 20% off of that product, because I can produce, if I have to do 100 of something, I can knock that out a lot faster than having to do 10 of 10 different things.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, totally.
So that's what I did this year, and it seems to be working pretty well. Got a lot of orders that were a lot larger quantity per style, rather than having a bunch of different styles ordered. So
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
That's
And it's what kind of back up on the whole thing too. Like you're talking about leaving for a bit and coming back. This whole new invigoration of energy in a sense, or whatever the word I'm looking for. And you look at like mythology and all the stories that you hear out there of like the student goes and finds the kung fu master and then learns some shit and gets really close to being the master, but then like gets jaded at some point and leaves, and then goes on this spiritual journey. And then when he returns, he's this fucking badass that could like beat the hell out of his master, you know, kind of idea, you know, in the
Right.
in the lore of like stories, you know, out there. And personally, I went through a lot of the same stuff you're talking about, you know, like do my own thing. I wanted to, because I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Not all of us really have that mindset of a business owner. So for me, it's like it's difficult not to want to run a business of some sort, whether it's a lawn service or a glass, you know, business, whatever it is. Like you're
Yep.
talking about, you know, starting a cryptocurrency, you know, thing, which I think is fucking crazy. But you know, you did that, and it's ballsy to jump out into something different, you know. But
Right.
you coming back from all that, even after, you know, kind of being burnt in something else, I think is why you came back so invigorated, because it gives you a chance to really sit back and like get a really like 30,000 foot view of what you've been doing for the last, say, 10 years of what, you know, your business wise. And I was in that
Right.
I did that same thing several times over the last 20 years. You know, I would do my own thing. I would be like, I'm getting too busy. I need to bring on help. I bring on help. The help I bring on was somebody who had originally worked for me, say, who was my original apprentice, like what you have, which was like, you know, they're amazingly dedicated and loyal. And then you start bringing me more people on to help you even keep up the business. And then those end up taking off because they're the best glass blower on earth after 2 weeks, you know? And it, you know, and but it's understandable. You know, it's like it's hard. I think it's hard for people to understand. Like when you're sitting at a torch and someone's paying you to be there to learn this process and create production for them, all you're thinking about is, well, I could do this myself and sell this for this amount of money and make more money. Blah 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 blah. But then you don't really think about the details of what your thought is of the reality, what goes into what you're doing running a business.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
All
The
you see is
management of
numbers.
a shop. Oh man. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Right? I mean, if you're a glass blower and you want to run a business, you cannot blow glass. You're running the business. That's all you can do. You know, and I tried all that shit myself. That's why, I mean, literally, I think my issue I had 2-3 years ago that led towards my divorce was because I was doing so many different areas of not only my glass business, but also working at Disney and being a dad and a husband and all this other shit, that the focus was just so spread out and scattered. I fucking lost myself, you know, in a sense. And everything else in my life fell apart because of it, you know. And your business will do the same exact thing. If you're trying to do everything, you can't do it. So I think it's smart that you realize that when you came back, you know, and then you have like this new sense of energy and you're cutting back on your lines. But then the fact that you raise your prices, bro, like I would tell anybody, if you're too busy and you can't keep up with the orders, raise your prices. You know, and then the fact
Well,
that
and
you did that.
the key to that though was I raised my prices on the smaller quantity.
Mhm.
Like because I'm still somebody that'll say, well, I can't charge more for my piece. And that's still true. Like a wrap and rake is a wrap and rake, right?
Right.
Like you can add stuff to it, but if it's just a basic wrap and rake, it's going to be, you know, $7 to $9. Like that's pretty much it. But what I did was I offer it still at $7, but you got to buy 100 of them from me.
Yeah, it
You know,
incentivizes it for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And so
smart.
that's how I was able to raise the price, because it's still, you know, they're still looking at the catalog and the price they want is sitting there. And it was crazy. I didn't have a single person negotiate with me. Not a single person at Glassroots.
That's awesome.
You know, they saw what the prices were and they appreciated the quantity. And there's this one guy that perpetually, like, he goes around every place. Everybody hates the guy because he just hacks them down, because the guy's going to spend $3,000-$4,000, right?
Yeah.
So like he is really pushing for price. He came over to my booth and he bought 25, 50, 50, and he spent like just under $4,000. And one of our buddies came over and he's like, man, I hate that guy. He always hacks us down. And I was like, we didn't even negotiate. Like he saw it there, you know? So
Yeah.
that's the other benefit of that too.
Yeah, but it's smart. But it's true. I mean, if you're going to be a shop owner that buys quantity, you should expect a discount. Period. No matter what it is you're buying, because you're paying.
And I
wholesale.
want those customers too.
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
That's who I want to work with.
Yeah, ideally, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's
I don't
smart.
know. It's been cool. You know, I mean, I'm with you about that, like, entrepreneurial side. Like, you know, that's just my, and it just happened. Like, and I found glass earlier in life, but I'm 32. I'm not that old yet, but I'm not that young anymore. Like, I can't do the, like, you know, I mean, I could, but like, I'm in a different place in my life. I'm not going to like live in my car and like go and travel. Like I did that, you know, and I'm like trying to like start a family and all this other stuff. And so I'm trying to find stability. So like, that's kind of, I also found like a new reason, I guess, when I came back kind of focused and like, we kind of briefly talked, like I definitely like, I want to get into real estate and like all this stuff. I know a handful of people in our industry, like kind of the bigger guys, like kind of got into some of that. And then you can create stability. And then what I hope for is like, my late 40s, I don't have to worry about production. I get to do whatever I want the rest of my life, like making whatever and not worrying about if I have to sell it or not,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of where my head went to. We're never going to have a retirement. I see some of these guys, even in the scientific world that are like, late 60s, they're, working their ass off every single day and they're never going to have a time to kind of back off,
Yeah.
So I'm just starting to think about that stuff.
Excuse me. Yeah, and I think that's what the beauty of being a glass artist is you get to yourself to a point where retirement doesn't even really. I mean, I consider myself to have retired when I got out of high school. It was kind of my little on-running joke because like once I started blowing glass, I mean the financial freedom was there. I just had to work my ass off to get to a point to where I could take a day off or like go to the beach in the morning, which is what I started doing, and then spend the afternoon blowing glass. So if there's, which is part of why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because this week's topic basically was, besides the obsession, but the why. Why are you obsessed? And it's because we have this opportunity to create and design this lifestyle that we've always wanted to have. And it's at your fingertips. You just have to know how to put it on paper and make a plan to make it happen. And then, again, stay focused and balance your time. It's all easier said than done, though, when it comes down to it, But again, the idea is there, and as you mature and get older, the guys I've talked to that have been doing this for as long as I have, and yourself included, and even generations even after you, we're all growing up from being early 20s into our, quote unquote adulthood as glass artists, and I think that it's such a unique opportunity not only to grow as a person, but to grow as a business, and you're growing inside this business that's teaching you lessons about life, but you're also like learning about the business. You know what I mean? It's like this kind of back and forth thing that glass really teaches us, and it's an awesome opportunity, but you got to pay attention to that. You can't just be going through the motions every day. If that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it does. Like I don't know, I guess that's kind of where like while you're I guess I don't even realize, I think about every once in a while where it's like, man, like I'm waking up in the morning, I'm having my coffee, and my girl is getting ready and she like needs to get to work at 7:30, and I'm like, well, I'm going to get in the shop at 7, but I don't need to. Like I'm doing that because I want to, and like I forget that a lot of times. But I also see that like, I don't know, I guess I just think of it as like how can I create more ways of having stability? Because, the ebbs and flows of our industry, I mean, like this was one of the harshest summers as far as like, at least in the Facebook groups, like just nobody was buying, and like having those types of ebbs and flows, like I'd like to have a little bit more stability through that than I currently have. And some of that's going to be from glass and some of that might be from outside of glass, but I'm never going to have to leave, because of how I'm trying to do things. So, yeah.
It's smart.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, like I'm actually going to have to like pay the tax man and everything pretty heavy this year so that I can, show some solid small business income and have to play that tax game so that I can get a second house and then rent the first house out. But then at that point, then I have some stable income coming from that first rental that's going to relieve some of the pressure from the torch. Now, not only does that help me to have stability, but it also allows me to keep my prices up, right? Because, if I just build a bunch of inventory and nobody's buying, like I don't have to drop my price because I'm taken care of in other ways. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's smart. I mean, you have to be diversified, period. And that's why, like in this week's episode, I talk about if you're struggling as a glass blower, it might be because it's not your skill set as a glass artist, but it's the business skill set as a glass artist that isn't effective right now. And if once you get that that part of your brain and the routines and the habits of keeping your books and, whatever the business sense. Take some classes, get some good knowledge. Are you filing a Schedule C? Are you doing quarterly taxes? Are you doing annual taxes? Like, there's all these little things you got to think about. But once you can get that all in check, then you can I don't want to call it successful. I want to say it's just kind of, I don't even know what the word I would use would be, but
stability. Stability.
Yeah, exactly. There you
You
go.
know, like, it's not about how much money you have, but money is what takes care of is what puts food on your table.
Yeah.
And so it's important. That's the stability. And to your point, that stuff even sounds a little scary probably to a lot of guys, but like down to invoicing, like my invoices have my logo on it. It's all printed up. It's all itemized. Everything has a SKU, a part number, and all this different stuff. And so when a customer gets that, they appreciate it. They know that this is a business. They don't, if somebody knew really I got that there's only two of us in the shop. Like I've talked to some customers and they've been like, wow, like I thought you had a lot bigger thing going. It's like, no, I just run my business as if it's big.
Exactly. Exactly, bro. That's perfect. It's the perception.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a handwritten receipt. That's cool if that's what you got to do in the beginning, but like you said, like take some classes, learn some stuff about this, and then you can create like recurring customers. You can create customers that trust that if they send you $1,000, think about it. If Amazon wrote you a handwritten receipt, would you feel so comfortable buying stuff from them?
Exactly.
Yep. Like we have to look like that. We have to take care of that stuff. And that's kind of where I think our industry is going, right? Like we see these really big professional companies in our industry and that's cool. And then the small guys, like we're going to get lost in the mud if you don't do these things.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but
no, you're 100%, dude. Because in past episodes, I've talked about this with shop owners and what have you, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone to sell an order and had a receipt that was printed, or I was able to go into my phone into an app I had and I just emailed it to them, and they're like surprised because they really don't deal with that with glass artists or even artists in general. I've seen like large wholesale distributors that were still writing paper invoices, which isn't a bad thing. But,
Right.
like to the point of having a logo and having your information on there, having PO numbers, because shop owners,
Right.
the majority of them have some kind of POS system in their computer that they catalog and categorize all their shit to keep a track of inventories and pricing, whatever system that they're using. So they can just plug your numbers into their system. So it's a simple
Right.
process for them. And it also helps them, which they see that and they appreciate that. And
Right.
it's, walking into a store looking halfway decent with a nice case,
Right.
a nice case in your hand, not just a bunch of bullshit, newspaper wrapped up pipes type shit. Like, look professional. Go to the
It's
fucking
$30, buy a case.
Yeah, exactly. If you have to go to the Dollar General store or the fucking whatever donation place to get a pair of pants and a shirt that fits, you have to do what you
Right.
got to do, and you got to be professional. Otherwise,
Right.
they're not going to take you seriously, and that's
Well,
so important.
And so I took all this. So, I have QuickBooks all set up and, that's my accounting software and has my material cost and everything in there. And so I got a wild hair up my butt a couple months ago. I don't know, 6 months ago. I should have done this long ago. I had like a general idea of what each of my pieces cost in material, but I actually like broke it down. Like I took out my frit jar. I used what I used to fill frit. I weighed out each piece of each of my pieces or whatever. That sounds redundant, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But so like I found out that my frit spoons cost me 50 cents in frit, and then I have some like cheap solid color window spoons. It cost me $2.50 in materials for those. So after that, I was able to determine like, man, so every 3 frit pieces that I do, I get a free one if I did with one of my window spoons. And so I actually, just because I was selling my window spoons for more money, I'm actually making more money on my frits.
Interesting.
And so trying to kind of break down my material costs, we're just talking about the kind of taking it more of a professional level. And then you can actually analyze kind of what you're actually doing, because, I'm seeing some of these rigs that are, solid, full color, some hype colors and all this, and they're selling for $200. And for a while I was like, man, that's pretty cool. They're making some good money. And then I was like, this just doesn't make sense. So I pull out, some tubing and I weigh it out. I'm like, okay, this is what it would take me to make one of those. And I find that like, it's like $125 worth of material.
Exactly.
And it's like, man, so what? Do you make 4 of those in a day? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, dude,
So that's why I stick to my stuff.
no, and this is all the topics I want to talk to you about, because this episode I just did was talking about baseline calculations. You have to do that kind of shit, because you know, and when you do that, it allows you to say, okay, this is, because people ask me, like, you know, if I make a good living at what I do, and I'm like, well, just understand, it costs me around $10 an hour to work. Most people go to work and they make $10 an hour. For me to go out my studio and produce what I have to produce on a daily basis, it's about $10 an hour. And that's kind of a number I've worked with for the last 20 years, you know. So if I want to make $30 an hour salary, I got to make at least $40 an hour worth of product, which you can do that. You know, you're saying you're doing $200 and a half a day. That $200 number, dude, is a number that everybody should shoot for on a daily basis. If you work 5 days a week, it's $1,000 a week. Subtract your cost of materials, you bring in about, you know, maybe $600. It's not a bad paycheck for working for yourself.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think my numbers came out to about 30% in cost. So if I make 50 grand in gross sales, I get about 35,000 in actual cash in my pocket.
Yep.
So our numbers are pretty close to the same. And, we don't do anything similar in what we actually make. So it's probably a good rule of thumb for everybody to kind of look at, like, hey, I made $100 today, but did you really?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I think a lot of these new guys are falling off, because they buy all this equipment, they buy all this stuff, and they try it, and then they're selling a $15 spoon for $10. I know it costs $2 in just base material, and so they're making 10 of them in a day. It's like, some places in the country you can live on $80. You can't live on $80 a day in Illinois. So
yeah,
that's the other thing is where you live, you gotta some places are more expensive than others.
Right.
So,
but also at the same time, it's like, you got to think, like, I know myself, and I'm guilty as a lot of people are. It's when you are an artist and you bring this income in, you think that all this money is for you. When really, if you can establish your business as its own separate entity and think about the business paying you a paycheck, because like for years and years and years, and I still do it sometimes, I'll go sell an order for $1,000, and I take that $1,000 and I'll go buy some groceries and put gas in my car and maybe buy some material to restock up. But a lot of it just kind of goes out to whatever, or pays a couple bills, that kind of shit. Instead of like taking the money and putting it in my savings account and then breaking it up into, because I used to use a 30-30-30-10 formula. So it was like 30% cost, 30% profit, 30% would go to taxes, and then 10% would be go into a savings account for an emergency fund. And if you can set yourself up that way, so like you're saying, you make $100 sale, you take $30, you pay yourself, $30 goes towards material, $30 goes towards taxes, and then $10 can go into a savings account. You do that over and over and over again. Next thing you know, you got $10,000 in an emergency fund. Your tax bill's taken care of. Maybe you even have a little bit more money in there. If you ever pay your taxes, then you get a refund. So there's it's just a simple calculation, which is why I think as a glassblower, running a glass business is actually quite pretty simple. There's not a lot of overhead, not a lot of bullshit. It's just getting in the habits and routines and the mindset of just fucking doing it.
And having patience.
Yeah, that too. And dedicating time to it.
Right.
Your kiln's getting hot. Go sit and do your books from the day before.
I've been posting that on Instagram, that while my kiln's warming up, I'm wrapping an order.
There you go.
That's kind of when I use my time to do that. Yep, yeah. Exactly.
Or pull points, whatever you got to do, those that still pull points.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. I mean, I'm opening up blow tubes or connecting, some little 6 mils, some 5 inches of 6 mil that I have sitting on the side rather than trashing them.
Yeah.
Like that's what yep, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can appreciate the, I don't know. I had a buddy say, what did he say? He said, some of us aren't the golden children, and some of us are just, like I heard a guy can call himself a tradesman or an artisan rather than an artist. And that's kind of what the role that I've kind of found fits for me best.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm in the same boat, the artisan craftsman, type of idea. Because like at work, we always consider like the very first piece we make in terms of like a new model, for instance, that's the art piece. After that, it's all science and engineering and production and trying to figure out how to replicate that shit, So if you can have that mindset, like, yeah, I'm an artist, but really, if I'm an artist all the time, I'm not going to make any money.
Right, exactly. So this one guy, somebody said, man, you're such an amazing artist. And And he looked at him and he goes, "Don't insult me. Like, I put a lot more time into this than just being an artist. Like, this is craft." And I was like, "Damn!" Like, I just like, I don't know. I was like, I'm taking that. Like that's good. I'm using that.
Yeah, it's great. I had a lady the other day at work. She's like, "You're so blessed that you're creative," and I'm like, "It's a blessing, but it's also a curse." Just trust
Right.
me at that, because you go pull weeds in your yard. Next thing you know, you're constructing this fort of some sort or building of something else because you got a wild idea. To be
Nice.
creative.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Nice.
Yeah, but I'm glad too that you're bringing up the whole, the baseline calculations again. It's so important, but it also allows you to, like, when you were first trying to figure out your orders to make sure you had enough materials. If you can already have all that shit calculated, and you got to make 100 pipes, you already have a list written down of what it takes
Totally.
to make that piece. You know how much material you need to go buy, and then you fucking order it. If you have the money in the bank, which hopefully you do.
Dude, I had like 175 or 225 pieces to do. I ordered frit and I was within, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, like, I don't know, a centimeter from the bottom of a jar, like on like 3 jars. Like, that was how close my calculation was.
That's awesome.
Like, I mean, it's crazy how specific, and you end up not wasting money. You end up kind of having a little bit more comfort because you're not putting out all this money for material that's actually going to just sit while you're waiting to get paid, like all of that stuff. I mean, it makes a huge difference in a whole bunch of different ways when you're able to kind of calculate down to those types of levels. So yeah, it's definitely helpful.
Yeah,
And
so to kind of on that topic, so how did you go about doing it? I know you're talking about weighing out your stuff, so I don't kind of want to describe your thought process and the calculations of figuring out how much frit it takes to make a pipe.
Oh, definitely. So when I do frit a little different than some guys. I think some guys are doing it, but I have like a tube of 25 that is kind of just cut off and rounded out at the bottom, and that's my jar. And so I pour that in the front of the spoon, and that's how I kind of coat the inside. So what I did was I just kind of did that. I zeroed it out. I weighed that amount. I put it into the little holder that I use. I zeroed out the plastic container, and then I poured it back in, and I found that it was like, I don't know, I think it was 32 or 27 grams. I have it written down. I don't remember it. And then just kind of extrapolated that. That's for per piece is 25 grams. I get 9 spoons out of a quarter pound jar.
Nice.
And then I just kind of extrapolate it from there. If I have to do 100, then I need 11 jars. So or no, whatever, 9 jars. No, yeah, 11 jars to do 100 frit spoons. So that's kind of how I figured that out. Same thing with my wigwags and everything. I made a wigwag, threw it on the scale. I weighed that out, and then I had that number. Then I divided. I had to kind of take from pounds over to grams, divide by 28. I think most of us would know that number, or whatever, 16 ounces. So then I just, I did that for my for my windows, and then did the same thing. Actually, I weighed a rod before I do my honeycombs. I weighed the rod, and then I weighed the rod after I finished the honeycomb. I subtracted the difference and was able to tell how much color I was using there. I really don't worry about clear when it comes to, like, on a wrap and rake, how much clear it takes to rake it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of I don't know, not super important.
Yeah,
but then I also,
super cheap.
right. And then I also, how I do my production, I get 16 pieces off of a tube, no matter what. Like, I don't do 4 inches or 4.5 inches off of 32 to make it a bigger spoon. If I need more glass than what a 16th of a 32 heavy wall tube is, then I go to 38. And I found that helps me for speed. So anytime it's just a 16th of a tube for my clear, that's how I determine how much my base cost is in the actual base of the piece. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's smart.
Cool. So yeah, that's how I do all that. Everything's systematized, and then every once in a while when I have a wild hair up my ass, I don't worry about any of the systems, and I'll just throw some stuff together, and I'm not really worrying about that. But
yeah.
when all my production stuff is broken down to those types of systems. So
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what it comes down to is the calculations for production. You know, the heady art stuff is just it is what it is. Unless it is a production like a high end production line, then you know you really got to figure it out. So like your line tubing, are you doing vac stacks and stuff?
I'm actually I don't I can, you know, and I have many times,
Mhm.
but what I find is that my material cost, gas cost, and everything, when that's all combined, then I need to also make a variety. So like if I pull down, you know, a pound on my own, like I need to do 8 different pulls before I have enough to be able to do 100 pack of a piece, right?
Yeah.
So like I just order 8 different patterns, honestly, from Golden Gate and stuff. I mean, you know, their prices aren't that bad when you actually factor everything in, between time, material. I'm also on T tanks, so my oxygen cost is astronomical compared to, you know, anybody's that's on liquid. I mean, I'm paying $17 a T tank, which is still a good price. But you know, I'm looking, if I'm going to do pulls all day, I'm going to go through a tank and a half, and
Yeah.
that's just, you know, right there. And then when I'm factoring in my day cost me $300 if I'm making something else. So now I'm at $325 already, in not even including hard materials yet. I'm just including gas and my time, you know, so that's why it gets really expensive. I mean, now if I'm, you know, it's because my day cost me $300. If that, like, if I was to work on production, I'll make $300. If I choose to work on pulling tubes down and I don't make anything that's sellable, actual pieces, then that's $300 that I lost in opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't do any, that's why I pay for it for now.
That makes sense. You know, until you get to a point to if you wanted to bring somebody on board that just did that for you, that was just a tube puller basically. You know?
Right.
Which would make sense.
And that could, yeah, definitely. And also if I was doing stuff that wasn't production, you know, I mean, what people want to see when I show up with my windows is they want to see a variety. They don't care necessarily as much the color patterns. Now, if I'm doing a fully stacked rig, like, you know, that color pattern does matter. They want to see something different, right? Like collectors want to see stuff that's different, not Golden Gate tubing.
Yeah.
Which totally understand. But when it comes to a production spoon that's $15, that's not where collectors are going to be looking anyways. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes sense because I mean, you could technically spend a week and just crank out 6 months worth of tubing, and then you have your variety of stuff. But then again, you have a week's worth of production lost. So
well, that
you know,
cost me $2,000. You
Yeah.
know, $1,500 or $1,700 is about what I can make a week.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So how
Yeah.
much can I buy for $1,700?
Yep.
And that's just time. That's not including material. That's the kicker.
Yep.
Like if you're pulling down a tube, you know, if you're, you know, you're probably going to spend, I don't know, $20 or so in color. And when you're pulling down a pound of tubing, probably, I don't know if that number is right. Like if somebody else has done the calculation, they'll know better. But I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of where I, for now.
Yeah,
this is just kind of how
No, it makes sense, and again, you know, as we have this discussion, you know, everybody has their way of doing things, and if it works for you, it works for you, you know, and you can try something
Totally.
different, you know, and experiment, which is what this is all about, is really just fine tuning the process as you continue to evolve and grow, you know, and do your thing, you know. Again, like you said, you know, you had to walk away for a little bit, even though you're still doing it because we're all addicted to this, you know, whatever drug of a glass thing that we have, you know, kind of going on, but it's you know, it's definitely smart. And you know, a couple, you know, we had talked about pre-show, you know, talking about the Airbnb stuff, and like it's so important to, again, to, as an artist, if you're struggling, to have something backup or that you can do consistently, so when you're on the torch, you can actually just focus on the glass. You're not stressing out about paying your power bill or feeding your family or whatever, you know. And
I love that you're doing that.
yeah, it's fun. And it's so easy to do, and not every town or community allows Airbnb in. So like if you're gonna Airbnb, definitely look it up. But like when I first heard the story of this dude, like there's a couple podcasts, Airbnb podcasts I've been listening to just to kind of stay on track of stuff. And this guy, I mean, he was saying, and he's in downtown Manhattan, had this super expensive fucking apartment that he almost had to move out of. So he rented out his couch for $100 a night in Airbnb, and it was like sold out for a couple months. So he got an air mattress and put an air mattress on his floor.
Yep.
Rented that one out. Next thing you know, he's got a couch and 3 air mattresses in his living room, and he's making $400 a day with people that are only staying there for maybe 6 to 8 hours to sleep overnight, you know? So,
Yep.
you know, it's so important. And there's so many different new social platforms and, you know, sharing programs out there, couch surf and all kind of different things that you can open up your place to. I mean, obviously you want to make sure your place is clean and think about, you know, if you're a hotel, how would you, you know, want your hotel experience to be to create that for your guests. But that being said, a little bit of effort goes into it, and it, you know, like this house right now. I mean, really, I'm bringing in around $1,000 a month extra, and it's not my money.
Right.
It goes to the person who owns the house, and it's helping me subsidize my rent here, which has been awesome. But it's still available to anybody. I mean, fucking Uber, any kind of food delivery services, run pizzas for Domino's, whatever you got to do. You know, it's there's so much availability out there that you don't just have to blow glass all the time and kill yourself. You can really diversify, focus on your glass, and really focus on the areas of your glass that you need to focus on, which is the business.
Right.
You know?
Right. And I think, like, you know, a lot of this stuff is overwhelming, and, you know, I can't speak for you, but like, I know for me, like, I had to do a lot of learning, you know, rather than listening to music for, you know, the 65, 70 hours a week that I'm in my shop. Like, I'm listening to podcasts, you know, like listening to your podcast. I'm listening to, you know, other business and real estate related podcasts. And I'm learning more and more and more. Like, some of this stuff that I've learned, this stuff is not nearly as hard as people think it is, you know.
Yeah.
Like, little thing that I, you know, and then we'll get back to everything. But like, I own my house, and I can rent it out and buy another house and actually use the profit, use 70% of the profit between what I can rent the house out and my mortgage to qualify me for the other house that I'll buy. And then once I do that, I own the new house, and then I have a rental property, and do that again after 2 years, and again after 2 years, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of what I'm planning for retirement. So along the way, I'll, you know, just kind of be doing my thing. And then hopefully by the time I'm 50, everything is going to be taken care of. You know?
Yeah.
So all sorts of different ways. We can get so creative. I mean, we're creative people. It doesn't mean that it's only in the medium of glass. Like, if we learn any medium, in my opinion, you know, that's, at least maybe it's because I'm the entrepreneurial business minded. I think a lot of us are. We can get creative in all sorts of ways. You know, so
Yeah, man.
I
Well
don't know.
said.
If anybody wants to have those chats, like, please hit me up, and I'm willing to totally talk with anybody about that stuff.
Heck yeah.
I mean, anything that we've talked about, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
especially that stuff.
Yeah, especially if you guys go back and listen to his first episode and really understand where Chris has come from. Because, like, you know, I know a lot of people in this industry who have come up with a silver spoon in their mouth and are super highly successful, and are that because they were started off with a little trust fund, you know. And then you had these guys that are super highly successful who have paved their own ways and paved paths in the industry and made a name for themselves, and now they're driving fucking a Mercedes-Benz. But like yourself, you come up from a background. Listen to your episode.
I don't want to say that I didn't have some help. You know, I have really good parents. I have really, you know, all of that. You know, they didn't help me out like a ton financially, but, like, you know, I did have a good support around me.
But yeah, but you also, as a person, you could have ignored all that shit and just said fuck it all and I'm doing my own thing, you know. But you understand.
Did that for a while, for sure.
Yeah, haven't we all?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and no, I appreciate what you're saying, though. It's always like a little, I guess I'm just, it's one of those uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I am where I am because I am, you know, got here how I did. And yeah, definitely check out the other episode for that, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. It's huge.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I think that kind of covers, you know, what I want to talk about. But if you have anything else you want to share, definitely.
Well, you know, I was just going to throw, you know, one other little, I don't know. I listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, and he talks about give all your good ideas away for free. And because 99.9% of the people aren't going to do them anyways.
Right.
So I figure I'll throw a couple things out there real quick that I started doing. So I don't know if you have heard of Green Rush Branding. I want to give him a shout out.
No.
He's on Instagram. He makes he's actually a glass blower too, but he makes, you should have him on here because he's an entrepreneur too.
Yeah.
He makes stickers. He makes awesome vinyl stickers. So what I did was I got a bunch of 1/2-inch stickers. And so now on every single piece that goes out, they're all stickered. And so while it's good for creating brand awareness, the bigger thing to me is that when a shop looks in their case, and they see that they just loaded up 100 of my Ks all the way through the shelf, and then 2 months later they're down to 20 of them, they see a lot less of my sticker in the cases, they're gonna reach out to me and reorder.
It's genius.
So that's something that's been, and I thought about it for the longest time was, hey, I'm not a heady artist, so why would I do that? Because the customers don't care about production. Nobody knows who I am on the production side. But when I realized that it was the shop owner that'll notice those stickers missing, that was the big thing for me. And that was why I dropped the money on them. Other thing that I'm doing is I also have a little thank you card that I got printed up from Vistaprint, and it has a nice little story on there. It has all my contacts, and just like a little thank you that goes into every single one. I package it in a little cheap like envelope or whatever, and I put it in the case, in the box, also with some 3.5-inch slaps with stickers, just stickers, and a little foldable tent card that a shop owner, if they want to, they can put it in the case near my pieces. So those few things that I've been doing has really kicked up. Like, I'm getting a lot of responses right after a shop gets them, and they're like, hey, really like, this is really cool. I really like the display. Thank you for the thank you card. Like, it's just weird. Like, why do you say thank you for a thank you card? But it just goes to show that nobody's doing it, and shops are noticing when I'm doing it.
Yeah,
so,
it's smart.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's smart, because again, I think as glass blowers, as we think about the retail side of things, and I think what you need to think about is, like, even though we think our end customer is the person that's buying the pipe from the shop, really our customer is the shop owner.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
that's the person that we have to cater to, not the fucking, how can we help the shop owner sell our stuff better?
Right.
And that's what you're doing. It's genius, because I know, like, running a smoke shop, I saw all the Crush and Chameleon glass in there. I always knew what was what, even though some other local dude would come in and make stuff that looked very similar and would blend it in. The other stuff stood out because of their little sticker on it, and it's it's smart. It's
so it's Green Rush branding.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
and tell them Crispy sent you, and yeah, cool.
Yeah, perfect.
Hell yeah.
What's his first name? Do you know?
I don't know.
It's all good. His company. That's all that matters.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And we just chat through Instagram, so I'm just chatting with Green Rush branding.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome, dude.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect, man. That's a lot of good stuff to cover, and I hope you all really take this stuff to heart. And as you said, you can give away all the information, and 99% of the folks won't actually use it. So.
Hell yeah. And if anybody does, like, shoot me a message like, hey, I'm actually doing this. Like, I'll give you mad props, because I love when people are actually kind of taking this stuff serious and stepping things up. Like, that excites me.
Yeah, those are my favorite messages I get from other artists, is like, dude, this gave me an idea and I did this, and then they send me a picture and I'm like, that just makes my heart smile.
Hell yeah, me too. Hell yeah.
I love it. Awesome. There was one more thing I was going to ask you. I don't know. Never mind.
Right on.
Yeah,
well,
man.
Sweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, dude, thanks for coming on here and sharing this the journey, and for the third visit here. It's fun.
Yeah, I appreciate
You're like one of like 3 people I think now we've had on multiple episodes, and I'll definitely keep bringing you on, because I like where you are, I like your mental state, and then your perspective and philosophy on this stuff, and it's not that it's unique, but it's important with what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely think it's
Thank you.
yeah, it's definitely something people should take to heart.
I love what you're doing too. And I don't know if this is new, but I just found that you're on Stitcher too. And that made things so much easier, because I'm an Android guy.
Oh, nice.
So it was always hard to listen to Wise Guy. I had to use my computer and all this. Now that I have Stitcher, like, I'm actually blowing through a bunch of your episodes. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome you're on there. So
yeah, I got
any of the Android guys get Stitcher.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because like I'm on Spotify now too, and which
no way. Okay.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, Spotify, iHeartRadio, but I keep forgetting to write all these things down. Like, I need to make like a generic intro for the show. There's like a little note I read all the time, which includes all the areas you can find the show. Because it's so easy to be like, I'm an iPhone user, just listen to iTunes, but not everybody can.
Right. So yeah, Stitcher works great, and it's a good platform, and yeah, you're right on there. It's awesome that I found you there. So
hell yeah.
Cool.
Hell yeah, brother.
Awesome.
Well, it's good catching
Sweet,
up.
well,
yeah. Enjoy your day and your birthday party.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks for the. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
I sure will, brother. And we will be in touch.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, brother. Be good. Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by the Flow magazine. Since its inception, the focus of the Flow has been to provide a bond among members of the lampworking community. This has been accomplished by developing relationships with the finest artists and sharing their techniques with you through in-depth step-by-step tutorials. In every issue, you can enjoy great content with the hottest artists and cutting-edge techniques using the latest industry products. These features, along with the continuation of our Women in Glass edition, Glasscraft Emergent Artist Awards, inspiring gallery showcases, dynamic general interest articles, as well as health and safety information, make the Flow the leading international lampworking journal. And if you have not yet subscribed to the Flow, you can use the coupon code WISEGUY at checkout, and you can receive 10% off your annual subscription. So just go to theflowmagazine.com. That is theflowmagazine.com.